That's what I was just looking for.
I may collect the document.
I didn't read the rest of it.
No, take your time, please.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
You would agree with me that after you told the group in this group text that the troopers were back out front, in front of that house, Brian Albert's response was, right now?
Yes,
And then you said yes, correct?
yes,
And then Brian Albert replied, okay, correct?
Objection, Your Honor. As of the reading.
Okay. Is that how he replied?
that's what it just said, yes.
All right. Now, at that point, you texted the group that you were trying to get a picture of what you were seeing, correct?
I didn't see that on the text.
And you don't deny that you said that in the text, correct?
Can you show me the text, please?
Oh, sure. Oh, did you say you didn't see it in the
I
text?
didn't see that, no.
I'm sorry. That's probably because I didn't give it to you.
Wow, this was huge today. Huge day. We've been waiting for a day like this. We had special guests on the show too. I just want to get right to it. This was Matt McCabe today. He's sweating. David Yannetti all over him. He's got the text in hand. We got the archive. We got the whole transcript right here. A couple slides we're going to show tonight. And we got two great attorneys. Returning to the show, criminal defense attorney Mark Bederow. Welcome back, Mark.
How are you?
Awesome. And we also have new to the show. He's got his own channel. He's huge. Everybody knows him. DUI guy, Larry Forman. What's up, man?
Not much, dude. How are you?
I'm feeling good today. How are you guys feeling?
What do you even say at this point? Each day is worse than the last. Yep.
Yeah, I know. I mean, Matt McCabe is definitely the focus tonight because it was just right at the end. These text messages just blew us all away. I know, Attorney Bederow, you wanted to talk about this tonight, didn't you?
Yeah, I mean, it's devastating. It gives so much credence to the defense theory because there it is in all of their own words in their own group chat, and these are, the heavy hitters for what they're alleging. I mean, this is Brian Albert directly talking to Jennifer McCabe's husband. I think she was on that text chain as well, and it mentions everything they need. I mean, it literally talks or demonstrates their concerns with what are the investigators doing. It demonstrates they want to keep track of that. They make reference to another witness, this Kerry Roberts. They want to know, what did she say? Are they going to believe her? So they want to get ahead of that. They clearly want to get their stories straight with the cops and whatnot. They mentioned Proctor, so that's a bonus. The fact that clearly these people are in close contact with him very early, which is not what the DA has been suggesting. And then there's the absolute devastating home run, which relates to this idea that the story is going to be that we're going to tell everyone that he was never in the house. And Brian Albert makes it as bad as it gets by saying exactly. And the only context for this, the only reasonable context that you can interpret from this is that this is what we call circling the wagons, getting your ducks in a row, get on the same page. Let's get Chris, the so-called clean politician of the Klan, to start asking questions. That's got nothing to do with the media. That's ridiculous. That has to do with find out around town with your buddy, whether it be Chief Wiggum or any of these other people. Let's get the story straight. And to have Matt McCabe have to read it in his own words, as he did, as a deer in the headlights, even saying, I mean, bear in mind, this is a guy who said, I couldn't read the text. I need a light and whatnot. Is he deflecting? I don't know. But this is the same guy who also said, I saw the tire tracks in the dark from the window, but he can't read a text message.
Cell phone.
Oh, that's a good point. I forgot about the fact that his eyesight is not that good.
No.
He's proven that in court, and yet he's testified. You're absolutely right. I completely missed that.
Well, every now and then. But all kidding aside, this is so bad for them, and you have to give them credit because they could have used this earlier. They could have used this with Brian Albert, and it looks like they made a very strategic decision to hold it back and use it with the lesser of the strong-willed witnesses. Albert is a professional witness. You saw his demeanor. He never cracked. I mean, emotionally, even when he was saying stupid things about butt dialing and whatnot, but he held it together. Whereas Matt McCabe, my God, with the nervous smiles and the argumentative nature and then the sheepish. I mean, I think he even muttered at one point, "Oh my God," to himself as this was happening. So this is as bad as it could get for them, for the DA, that is, because the DA was in a position where they were just going to be arguing that this conspiracy theory is nonsense. It makes no sense. There's no evidence that anybody was in the house, and now they have it in their own words of a McCabe and Brian Albert, who of course is the king of the hill of this whole operation. And what are they going to say? It is their own text messages. These are messages that, unlike the messages that were being offered by the prosecution, which are screenshots, which arguably may or may not be accurate, who's to say? They're certainly less reliable. When you look at these messages, these are clearly Celebrite type messages. And as we were talking about online today, when they put them up on the screen, anybody who does this for a living could tell right away those are from the feds. And you could tell that because of the bait stamping technique at the bottom that they redacted out. And it was some clumsy effort by the court. We don't want them to know they come from the government, so we need to black that out. But then, all the lawyers on Twitter and everything will still know what it is and tell everyone. So they know what they have. That Jennifer and Matthew will be talking about this all weekend. She'll be asked about that on Tuesday. She'll deny it. But in any event, there's so much credibility now that exists in this defense theory because it's in these people's own words, what they're doing. And it's the way that they said it. We have to tell them this exactly. If they were concerned about nothing because nothing happened. I mean, a tragedy happened in front of their house, but his girlfriend ran him over. You don't talk like this. They show no sympathy towards the guy. I mean, I draw significance in that as well. They all testified how much they liked John O'Keefe, brother police officer, same department as Brian Albert, and what a great guy he was. But when push comes to shove and the shit was hitting the fan, what did the Alberts, or McAlberts as you all call them, what did they do? They circle the wagons, and O'Keefe becomes just the guy who's dead on the front lawn. And they're talking about what to do about it, when if they're innocent people in the sense of they have nothing to worry about, they did nothing wrong, then you don't talk like this. You don't try to get ahead of a story. You don't delete messages. You don't have these fake butt dials. You don't Google how long to die in the cold and delete that. You could go on and on and on. Doesn't mean any of them committed murder or anything like that, but they're clearly not telling the truth. They're clearly hiding something. They clearly don't have innocent hands. They're clearly talking to Proctor within, a couple of days of this incident. They're clearly asking Matt McCabe to spy on the police, in essence, and tell us what's going on. They're clearly worried about what Kerry Roberts, who's one of the first people who talked to Karen Reed. What did she tell the cops? Are they going to believe her? So this is devastating. There's no other way to look at it. Whatever people are going to say to the contrary, that this is not a big deal. This is a very, very big deal. And once again, Lally does it in a way where he leads with his chin, because he puts this as a silver platter right in front of Jennifer McCabe. I mean, you get this, and then they call her to just get absolutely kneecapped with all of this on Tuesday.
Amazing. What do you think, Larry, about it all?
It was too bad I wasn't in court today. I will say that. I really wanted to be there for this, but hey, you can't have everything. I mean, today was a day that's going to go down in history for this trial. I mean, up until this point, we've had the buildup, right? We've had the accumulation of nonsense. It's the parade. What was the original George Carlin? His last HBO special before he passed. Am I allowed to swear on this channel before I say what I'm about to say?
As long as we don't get kicked off YouTube. That's all.
No,
That's
you're not
all.
gonna
You,
get
you
kicked
know the
off, but-
line. You know it better
Uh,
than me. I don't know what the line is. I don't know. You have more experience. You tell me.
The Parade of Useless Bullshit was the original title of George Carlin's last HBO special. And that's the best way I can describe what has been up until yesterday afternoon. Well, maybe even yesterday morning after Colin Albert was uncrossed. Or that would be kind of like Colin Albert was kind of the beginning of the end, at least in my mind. And I'm sure in a lot of people who are watching right now. Every single witness, first of all, I tweeted this and some people have tried to correct me and I still stand by it. Adam Lally has no real trial experience. Okay, let's just face the facts. People were saying, well, no, Larry, he's true. I don't care what he has done. All I can tell you is what I am seeing with my own eyes. And I'm sure Mark will attest to this as well. And a lot of lawyers who have litigation experience. An attorney who has done who has at least a couple of jury trials under their belt, maybe they'll perform like Adam Lally here. But the problem is the way that Adam has been spearheading this trial is every single witness. First of all, before you put a witness on the stand, as a lawyer, you have to ask the question: what does this witness bring to the table? And number two, how do they further my theory of the case? Right? Now, if your theory of the case is make sure Colin Albert is not in the house for the feds, well, then Lally is achieving his goal. But if your theory of the case is Karen Reed is guilty of murder by hitting John O'Keefe with her car, he has accomplished about 2.75% of that. 97% of this parade of useless BS, as I have said just a moment ago, has been furthering absolutely nothing, trying to point the finger and pin the blame on Karen Reed. So if that's our benchmark, I'm telling you, it just seems like he's doing depositions. That's all he knows how to do. I know he's got civil experience, even though he has been with the Norfolk County Attorney's Office for about a decade. You know, they do have civil administrative branches within the prosecution's office. This is what a lot of people don't realize. I know personally, I know prosecutors who have never done a criminal case in their life because they do the civil division in the Commonwealth Attorney's Office or the County Attorney's Office. And that's maybe where Lally's experience really has come from. I still stand by the theory that Lally has Lally's head is going to roll when this case is over. His head was placed on the chopping block because they know he's going to botch it. They don't care what happens to it. They don't care what happens to him. His career, as far as the county attorney, the DA's office is concerned, is probably over the minute this case's verdict is rendered, whatever it may be, which again, I'm thinking is going to be not guilty, especially after I have seen the jury personally on Wednesday.
What did you see for the jury? What did you see?
They are bored. They are bored out of their skulls. They are waiting for action. Just like you have to remember, jurors are no different than you or I or the people watching this stream. Just the same feelings that you are feeling when a witness is testifying, those same eye rolls that you go, oh my God, did they seriously just say this? When you want to get up and get yourself a cup of coffee because you can't stand that, all of that the jurors are feeling. And I saw that with my own eyes on Wednesday, 2 days ago when I was in court. I will tell you that the minute Adam Lally sits down, okay? Here, I'll tell you this way. When Adam Lally is up there, sorry, I got a hair in my mouth. Adam, did you put it there? It doesn't like me talking poorly, but whatever, I'll find it later. I can't see. Oh, there we go, got it. When Adam is asking questions of his witness, most of the jurors' heads are turned towards the witness, right? So their attention is towards the witness. And on rare occasion, remember, there's 17 people in the room on the jury at this juncture, right? We have 12 jurors and 5 alternates, 10 women, 7 men. 2 of them are of Asian descent, which we'll get to in a moment. Which
Wow.
I'm sure that's
Yeah. I wasn't sure if it was 1 or 2. It's 2.
it's 2. Yeah, I just didn't want to tweet that, but in my video today, and I'm telling you, it's 2 for sure, and they're sitting right next to each other. So the 17 heads, imagine it this way: Lally is asking questions of his witness. Their heads are all turned towards the witness. On occasion, a couple of them may, kind of turn like this. But they never fully, like, they give their, you can tell with the body. The body language is really telling. When you're interested in something, you're going to turn with your entire body and you're going to listen, right? Well, they kind of do this whole thing where their bodies are turned towards the witness because that's where the information is coming from. And then they'll occasionally kind of do one of these to Lally. When Jackson or Yannetti are up there, it's almost like we get a completely different juror in every single one of them for the most part. They're much more, they sit more upright, they're not as slouchy, and they turn their heads and their bodies sometimes. There was one gentleman in particular I noticed who is turning with his entire body every time. I don't know, it seems exhausting to do it, 40 times a day, 40 times an hour, I should say, actually. But irrelevant for purposes of our discussion. The point is, it's like watching a ping pong match, like the heads question, answer, question, answer, question, answer. They're so interested. They're hungry. They're starving for information, just like you and I are. We want to hear the truth. We want to know the information. We want to know what is going on. And so do they. So do they. And Alan Jackson and David Yannetti and Liza Little, she had a few witnesses herself, even though I didn't witness any of them on Wednesday because she didn't cross-examine anybody on Wednesday. I am certain, without a shadow of a doubt, if the pattern continues, which I don't doubt why it shouldn't, the defense is providing by far more information than the prosecution. And for 2 simple reasons. Number one, Lally doesn't really have a case, and it's hard to try a case when you don't have one. I have personal experience with prosecutors who prosecute my clients with not a shred of evidence. They're on my channel. You can go check them out at the DUI Guy Plus. But the reality is the defense skips the BS. They skip the potatoes and the garnish. They go straight for the steak, and they feed the steak to the jury, and they go, here you go. We don't want to waste your time. Yannetti, a couple of times during the trial so far, has even apologized. He's like, I'm sorry. I don't want to waste your time. We're going to skip through this. I don't want to go right in. He did that with Matt McCabe today in court. He said, I'm going to skip over this because he doesn't say those words, but we all know what they mean. I want to respect you, the jury, and your time. And I want to get to the important stuff. And so I think it's working. I've also seen some behind the scenes stuff that I don't want to comment on. But I can tell you that the way the defense is working is a well-oiled machine, and Lally is just asking whatever comes to his mind. And the problem with doing that as the prosecutor, you lose the jury. The actual important information is buried in between 95% of fluff, and that 95% of fluff drowns the 5% of important stuff, and the jury just glosses over it. And so that's how Lally is actually losing the case within losing his case, which is impressive. It's an impressive feat. I've not seen that in a very long time of being a double loss for a prosecutor. But hey, I mean, I'm not complaining. So the jury is definitely bored, and they're waiting for the defense's case to start. I have no doubt about it.
No, Larry, when you were there, was it who was getting crossed? Was it Allie McCabe?
So they just finished Julie Nagel.
Julie Nagel, that's right.
Julie Nagel was on Wednesday for those like 10, 15 minutes. David finally got her to admit that for the first time today, for the first time in history, you said, and to this jury, he pointed to them, it was beautiful. To this jury, he said, you said there was a blob, 5 to 6 foot blob in the snow, and and she finally said yes, and he said, you're free to go, ma'am. After her was Allie. I always want to call her Allie McBeal. I don't know why. My head just popular.
I call it
culture, I guess.
Alibi McCabe.
Alibi McCabe is better. Allie. So Allie
good one,
direct and
Mike.
cross, and then Collins direct. So that was Wednesday.
Awesome. And so the jury seemed into that stuff, huh? They were paying attention when he was pointing.
Yes. And the crying, by the way, I just want to talk about the crying real quick, because there were some false narratives being perpetrated on the internet by people who have not been in the courtroom, and I have. So allow me to set the record straight and dispel any misconceptions people may have, which I doubt they do, but just for the record. The only person who fake cried, or even, tried to pretend cry, didn't cry, whatever you want to call it, Allie, was Allie. There was not a single juror that shed a tear when she had those emotions come up, which again, I'm firmly convinced she was upset at herself for saying when John was in the house, was the words that came out of her mouth. She was not upset at Colin being harassed or whatever, which again, I also think David came up to me at the end and he was like, he thought that made Allie a very sympathetic a very sympathetic witness to the jury. And I said, that's what I thought at first, David. And I even wrote it down. I said, but afterwards I looked at it again. And before I left, I told him, David, think about it this way. She just admitted to the entire jury that Colin was accused of murder, and they were harassed so bad to the point where it like drove her up the wall and made her feel all these feelings. So now the jury's starting to scratch their heads going, wait a minute. So why is Colin being accused of murder? That doesn't make any sense, right? So rather than look at it from she's now a sympathetic witness, which I don't think she was, it's difficult. I understand, David. It's very difficult when you're in the middle of trial to see. You're so focused on what's in front of you. Sometimes you have blinders on, and it's difficult. I don't blame him for it. That's why he has, internet, YouTube, Twitter. They're listening, folks. I will tell you this. This is the first time I think I've ever seen a defense team who is active, other than the Johnny Depp trial. That's the second. Okay, so this is the second time. That was the first time. They're reading, they're listening, and they're watching. David told me he watched my dissection of his opening statement. I couldn't believe my ears. I thought there was no way, but somebody sent it to him. He viewed it, and I'm not trying to toot my own horn. My point with this is to say they are watching, folks. They know what's going on around this trial, and they're not just lasered in on the facts like Lally is. Lally is a hear no evil, speak no evil, because there's not a lot of chatter that helps him. Most of the chatter is for Karen Reed. And so as a result of that, the defense is paying attention.
Awesome. That's a lot of great information. So much to cover. Some of the texts that we were looking at today, you brought up the Asian issue. What do you think? We'll start with Mark. What do you think that will have an effect on those two jurors? Do you think, possibly?
Well, they're human beings, so I don't know how forgiving or unforgiving they're not. But if you're an Asian juror and you hear this buffoon use language like that, which, by the way, fits perfectly in with the whole stereotype of this whole group of people. We've talked about this before, and to be diplomatic about it, you can put a suit and tie on him, which he doesn't look very comfortable in, frankly. But these people, they're not classy people. Everything is drinking. They're crude, they're rude, and they're talking about, the Asian house. So how does that look? It doesn't look great. Is it that big a deal? I don't know. I don't know that it's going to matter anyway, just because how crappy the case is. And, we just heard another critique of Lally, and, you've certainly heard mine before. I think he's the worst prosecutor I've ever seen try a case, a serious case anyway, bar none. And that's not to be mean. That's just to be truthful in terms of what I'm watching. So I don't think that you're going to piss off these jurors. They're already probably not paying attention because he's so boring, because he's talking about the snow and other nonsense. Can it matter? Yes, it can matter. Do I think in the grand scheme of this case, it's that big a deal? No. I mean, there's certainly worse language than that, which we can all imagine, which might be a different thing. It's insensitive. It's not a good look, but you don't want the jury thinking about that, because that's the least. And these text messages, that's about important issue number 11 out of 10. You want them focused on the real stuff, which is they're getting their ducks in a row, circling the wagons. And I want to know what the cops know. Do they believe us? And here's the story. And you find out what's going on and all of that. And that's what really matters, not a stupid comment by this dope.
What do you think, Larry?
I agree. I agree with what Mark said. At the end of the day, the reason I think David even spent a minute on it, well, there's two reasons, actually. I can think of another one. First, there are 2 Asians on the jury, and that is not going to resonate well with them. But even not even going that far, let's say they end up being the 2 alternates, let's say, right? And they're the ones who are going to go home randomly. Anything could happen. Is that going to change? Just like Mark said, is that going to change the outcome of the case with this one buffoon, one mongoloid has said? Of course not. But is it going to influence, like, just the fact that this is how he referred to his neighbors, the Asian house? It's just not a good look. It's a cumulative effect that it has on this trial, and it's a cumulative effect that they're trying to get imprinted onto this jury of, look, these are not friendly people. These are not good people. Don't expect them to, you're not invited to their barbecue. Let's just put it that way, because they hang around their own social circles. They have their own way of speaking, and it's just not a pretty way of talking about someone else. And it goes to show the character of a human being when their text messages, whom they did not expect will be ever shared in public, are dissected. Because you only talk like that, locker room talk, as we call it, I guess, right? It's when you talk amongst yourselves. You never expect anybody else to see it. And that's when you speak freely. And that's why it's so damning, because that's when they spoke freely. They were honest. They
Mike,
were themselves.
The other thing is this, yes, it's insensitive, but calling the Asian house isn't even the most offensive term in the text messages, as opposed to the guy.
Yeah.
Now, that's not racist, but that is
Humane.
that is a police officer dead on the lawn of another police
It's your
officer.
friend
who
too.
all-
Your
all-
supposed
that-
friend.
That's how they're going
Yeah.
to use it against him. All of these witnesses come in and say, "Oh, I love John, and he's a good guy, and we're friends," and this. But when the shit hits the fan and we have to clean up the mess, tell them that the guy never came in the house. And that is something that effective lawyers will focus on. I mean, the Asian thing is just kind of there. It's one of those, you don't even mention it. You just let it do what it's going to do. But I would be surprised if they didn't hammer home
That guy.
the guy, particularly because they all put forth this veneer of how much they liked him. And at the end of the day, he was just a corpse on their lawn that we need to clean up the mess and make sure it doesn't come back to us. These people are disgusting. And that's what those messages show. And the Asian stuff adds to it. The guy adds to it. Have Chris see what's going on with this. If you look at them all in the whole, it fits the image that you already had of these people. And this time, though, it's when they're in the raw. They're talking privately, as Larry just said, amongst themselves, never thinking anyone's ever going to see. And that's when you can tell how people are and what they're doing, when they're speaking comfortably and calmly and privately. And that's why everything in those messages is just so devastating for what's going to come on Tuesday.
Yeah.
We got
And she's on that chain too. Remember that she's on that chain, Jen McCabe. Now, she may not have communicated, but what is she going to do? Claim I never read the messages? I mean, that's impossible to believe. Clearly,
definitely want to talk about that tonight. What's going to be upcoming on that cross on Tuesday? We got 3 days. They're going to have so much time. It's going to be interesting to see where that goes on Tuesday. We're getting some what do we call these super chat comments coming in. Thank you so much, everyone who's been commenting and sharing this. One of them just said, "Could keep up the good work. You guys local?" I am local. I'm Massachusetts North Shore guy forever. I went to Bridgewater State University where Colin and Tom Kelleher and some of the other characters, I guess, went to as well. We have Mark Bederow, the attorney. He's from Framingham, but he's in New York City practicing criminal defense attorney. You got a case this week going on right now, right?
I do. And on top of that, I will be at game 2 in the Garden next week on Thursday night. So I am coming back.
Against New York. You're rooting for Boston
Well-
over Knicks, so how's that going to go?
Well, of course. I don't, I mean, I live here, but I don't like the Knicks. I don't like the Yankees or any, I mean, it's horrible right now with the Knicks and Rangers doing what they're doing. But no, we'll be at the good Garden, as we like to say, next week.
Oh, it's amazing. And
Yeah.
Larry, tell us about you. Are you in Florida? Where are you? You tell us about yourself. You got a huge thing going. Like, how many followers do you have on YouTube? Number one.
We just crossed 425,000.
Wow. Holy crap, man. It's insane. Tell us about you for people that don't know. I think I assume everybody knows you, but for people who don't.
Sure. I'm the exact opposite. I always, my benchmark is you've never watched any of my videos and you have no idea who I am. And then we go from there, but I'll take it. No, I'm from Louisville, Kentucky. Been there half my life now and studied undergrad, University of Louisville Law, University of Louisville Law School, Brandeis School of Law, and opened up my practice and been there ever since. I'm actually trying to sell my practice now so I can do this kind of stuff full time. But for the time being, I have a lot of jury trials of my own under my belt. Like I said, about just over 3 dozen. And I love this kind of work, man. It's very rewarding. I love the law and I love the truth, and I like to spread both. I like to teach people. That's what I use my channel as a platform to teach people about the law. And I just cover, things like I went to the Johnny Depp trial. That's where I really learned about this skill that I have. After that, what did I do? I did the Kristen Smart trial. I went to Danny Masterson. I did Harvey Weinstein. What else did I do? Oh, the South Carolina, Alec Murdaugh. Alec Baldwin is coming up. That's not next month, but the month after. Now Karen Reed. So you see the pattern. It's become my thing. But unlike most law tubers, as we like to call ourselves, I actually like to go to the location. That's why I'm here in Massachusetts right now. That's why I was in court on Wednesday. I'm different. I look at things differently. To me, the money that I have to spend on the plane tickets and the hotels, which, by the way, Brad, shout out to you, Brad, who's been so gracious to provide this place. For
Brad
us
Goldstein?
Goldstein for a week. Yeah.
Yeah, he's a good dude.
He's a solid man, and he's rolling, man. I love it. Like, you know what I'm saying?
I might have to hit him up.
He's a really good guy. He hooked us up, but it's not about the expense. It's about the experience, right? So for me, the being able to be in the courtroom for the Johnny Depp trial, the Masterson, the Alec Murdaugh, which I also went to South Carolina for on multiple occasions while the trial was going on. Karen Reed, we're leaving on Sunday, but we will be back. We will be back in 3 weeks to the trials. So, and it's definitely still going to be going on, especially since we don't have, it's 4 days next week, 1 day the following week. I mean, there's plenty of time to come back. So plenty of trial to still do. And hopefully I want to see, so now that I've seen the prosecution side, I am trying to communicate with Kelly, who's Karen's sister-in-law, to get in when the defense is going to be doing their portion. That's going to be the real comparison, because now I have a visual of what they look like during the prosecution's case in chief, and I want to compare that to the visual of the defense's case in chief. That's how I was able to pinpoint that the jury is going to find for Johnny Depp. It's not easy. I mean, that case was really crazy, but you need different points of data in order to be able to have a proper and as accurate as possible assessment as to how a jury is vibing. Because if you have just one data point, you can't plot it on a graph.
Right.
It's just like simple mathematics, if you will. once
could
you have
change,
multiple,
too. Yeah.
sorry,
That could change too, like their opinion, like if you just saw the beginning, not the end, or the end.
exactly.
Yeah.
No, you're exactly right. You need multiple data points from multiple different cross sections from multiple different phases of the trial, and the closer to the end, beginning. I mean, the more the merrier. I mean, ideally, I would have wanted to be in that courtroom every single day for the duration of the trial, but you can't have everything.
Excellent. So you're from Kentucky. See, I was totally wrong. I thought Florida. I don't know why I had that in my head that you were.
I'll take Florida.
Kentucky is very an interesting place. That's wild that you're a Kentucky boy. So we're learning a lot. We're learning about sports teams and where people are from tonight. If you have comments or questions, you can drop them in the chat. We'll try to get to them. We have a lot of people listening, so it's tough to always post everyone. If you repeat them, sometimes we get to them. There's so much more to talk about tonight. What is there anything that you guys wanted to talk about, like in terms of this trial or even today?
Well, how do you not talk about Jennifer McCabe, who, as we've talked about, is the single most important witness that they have? I mean, she's the glue guy. She puts it all together. She has a lot of the damning evidence, if you believe any of this stuff, against Karen Reed. And here she shows up 3 weeks into the trial, 40 witnesses in, at the worst possible time, in light of what her husband did to the case. The first thing that strikes me about her is she presents terribly. And this is just my own judgment. I'm a big, not an expert, but I'm a big body language guy. We've talked about that. And she looks so canned, so rehearsed, and so nasty. She really projects this. There's something raw and just unlikable about her. And you were talking earlier about witnesses crying and whatnot. What I saw today, and people can disagree, and it only matters ultimately what the jurors saw and think. But I saw her on a couple of occasions try to cry, try to look all sympathetic, and she couldn't get there. It was just kind of a dud. I mean, her daughter, yeah, she poured it on, and people either accept that or they don't accept it. But I don't even think that McCabe could will herself to get there. And of course, the real problem is she's getting all allegedly choked up. But go to the videotape of the night and the audio tape when this is happening in real time, when her friend John O'Keefe is missing and potentially dead and whatnot. And she's about as calm, cool, collected, cold, bored, no reaction. Some guy is lying on the lawn. They're telling her, calm down, calm down. I mean, why would you tell her to calm down? Her boyfriend is lying, basically dying on the lawn. And the husband is saying, shut her up. She's going to wake up the neighborhood. Right. That was lovely. And, McCabe is just none of this. So I thought you start with her, that her demeanor looked very canned and faked. And then some of her testimony in particular struck me as Lally actually preparing. It's all relative. I mean, by preparation, I don't mean anything competent or in depth, but by his standards, because what did McCabe say about when she saw the taillight? She specifically referenced, but it was covered by the snow. And that immediately brought me back to their failed attempt to have the state trooper or whatever he was a couple of weeks ago try to identify what he later saw on the car from his dash cam, if you remember that. That just sounded too clever by half. Then she says, I saw the light, and she said, look, the light. And then they play the video today of the Ring camera. And what do? They get out of the car and immediately go in the house. So there's no way she showed her the light. But the biggest thing is she doubled down emphatically on all the things that you're expecting her just to get clobbered with about the Google search, about anybody being in the house. And the Google search for her, she has kind of a two-headed problem with this. The first one is just the science of the time that it occurred. And you either are going to believe the defense expert, or you're going to believe that the half-hearted, half an expert that the DA apparently paid for, whatever that is. But the other problem they have is her prior statement to the other trooper, the female trooper, the one who's on the defense witness list, but not the prosecution witness list, which ought to be a huge red flag to anybody who looks at these things and say, how the hell is that happening? And the reason it's happening is because she said that when the Google search occurred in the back of a police car while we were praying. So, and you can synchronize that timeline. And if it doesn't match the time that she claims that she was doing it at 6 whatever, then, the lie is exposed right there. And the worst part is when she says it's in the car, and it's while they're praying, she's adding a specific detail, the whole thing about praying. So if it turns out not to be true and you're adding those kind of details, you're not making a mistake. The Bruins just scored, by the way. So,
Yay.
yeah. But if you add those kinds of details to a lie, that's devious. That's intentional. I'm wondering if her lawyer, who had a chance to watch her husband just get spanked around on obviously, cellular information and other information that's going to come from the feds. There's Apple Health data. There's all kinds of things that are going to blow her out of the water, prior statements, the stuff you saw today. We've talked about this before too, Mike. I don't know why there isn't a serious conversation between a lawyer who his only client is her. Doesn't matter what, the state is going to do with their case. Your duty of loyalty is to her. To have her go in and repeat these lies, if that's what they are, emphatically and confidently, then when this is all said and done, and if they can prove that that's false, then, she could be exposing herself. And I think she is really set up to just be sliced and diced. And effectively, if that happens, then the case is, it's already a terrible case, as you know, but at that point, it becomes a formality. And I don't see how that's not going to happen based on what we've seen and what we expect is coming.
What do you think, Larry?
About
About Jennifer McCabe on Tuesday? Like what? She's and maybe even just what happened today with her too.
so her demeanor, and I wish I could have seen the jury on this, but if she's anything like Allie, with respect to the jurors' reactions to her, not the person, there's a lot of similarities. Allie and Jen are these women who think they both remind me of Amber Heard a little bit from the Johnny Depp trial. They think they're really, really smart, and they think that they're fooling everybody in the room when they speak without realizing that everybody is seeing through their bullcrap. And it's beautiful. It really is. I remember this one moment. I'll share this with you. I remember there was this one moment. I'm sitting there, and what's up, Matrix? She's a staple on my channel.
You got a lot of comments too. We got so many comments loving you.
I'll take it.
Yeah.
So Allie is on the witness stand. And Allie says, she gets asked on cross-examination. This was the question. She gets asked on cross-examination, you did a Zoom hearing with troopers asking you about this case or something like that. Somebody was asking you questions about this case. Yes. Do you remember that Zoom hearing? Yes, I do. Okay. Was Jen McCabe, your mother, was she in the room? I'm sorry? Well, I didn't hear the question. I said, was Jen McCabe your freaking mother? Hello? You're this 19-year-old chick, was your mom in the room? I don't recall. The minute that those words left her lips, I beeline to the jury because I wanted to see their reactions. I counted at least 2 or 3 of them who literally went, oh my God, are you kidding me? Just like we did. Just this, I'm telling you, it's the same way. They were so, they don't believe them. They don't understand why these people are not revealing this information because they're not the ones on trial yet. It's going to have to be a different jury, obviously. But if it ever comes to that. But the point is, just as we get frustrated, just as we get annoyed, they're the same way. And watching that in real time confirmed that for me. Now, obviously, the jurors don't have this wealth of information. We can go to Twitter and YouTube and whatever and start filling the internet articles and so on. We can fill our pockets with information about the case. They can't. They're at the mercy of how fast Lally moves, pretty much, really, at this juncture. The defense is going to move a lot faster, I suspect. But the reality is, for Derby, I'm guessing that question was about Derby.
Yeah, they
If
want a
can
room.
Rent a room. Sure, we can make accommodations for you. It's a year away. We'll talk. The reality is they did not buy this constant I don't remember, I don't recall on the defense's cross-examination of the witnesses that I have personally seen. And I believe we can extrapolate from that they're obviously smart enough, they're going to follow in that same pattern. They're going to react in the same or similar fashion for the other witnesses. It's just not a good look. It's just like we understand that it's all bullshit. The jurors see right through it. Believe me.
We have a question for you, Larry, from a viewer. They want to know, have you seen any reaction to Bev from the jury?
So a very curious observation. It was at the very, very beginning of the day. We were all fresh. The jury was fresh. The judge just walked in. It's like 9:03 a.m. The jury's walking in. They sit down. And Judge Beverly Cannoni does her usual. I have to ask you the 3 questions. Have you had any communications about this case? Have you discussed this case? Have you seen anything about it, etc.? I will not say who, because I don't want to reveal identities or whatnot. But I can tell you that there were multiple jurors who they don't welcome Beverly with open arms. Let's just put it that way. They are very aloof and distant, but they understand she's the judge and they have to give her the respect, as much respect as they can. Now, would I say that they are enthusiastic? Absolutely not. Quite the opposite. They're doing the formalities that they have to do. But can you go back to that question? Do you still have it? I want to make sure that I answer it.
Let me find it.
Sorry, I lost the thread. I remember it was
I know there's
how
a
did
lot
the
of them
jury
here.
react? Yeah.
Oh, here it is.
Got it?
Yeah.
And her rude comments. So the rude comments to the defense. I can't say that I have a memory of how maybe she has done something to the defense and then the jury reacts a certain way. I don't have a memory in my head that I can pull. I'm sorry.
Perfect.
Maybe next time.
Yeah. We got a lot of questions coming in. Mark, do you have any? I wonder if you have any questions you want to ask Larry, because he's seeing the jury. I'm just, if I'm missing anything, what do you think?
I mean, it's always interesting to see the jury. Maybe one of the questions, this has nothing to do with the case. It's just curiosity and Schadenfreude. So I'll just ask and we can move on. Are they reacting to the clown in the back, or who used to be in the back with the computer with the pot stickers and whatnot?
Grant. Yeah. What?
Just curious.
Well, lucky for me, the day that I got in is the second
day
day
he got
he was
tossed
booted
out?
out. Yeah, it
Yeah.
was like the first or second, because he had that scuffle where he assaulted a real journalist. And now he's probably, as long as she's in the courtroom, Jessica,
He's out.
he's not going to be allowed in, period.
So that's great.
So I don't think they care. Honestly, I don't think they care.
Good.
He's media as far as they're concerned. They're not going to really.
They're asking a Larry question again. What's more shocking, this trial or Depp heard or any of the other ones that you've covered? And what's the difference? Is there a difference between this and those other trials in terms of the people, I guess, just the protests and things like that?
Well, obviously, every trial is different. Depp v. Heard was a civil case. Masterson and Weinstein were SA cases. Kristen Smart was also a murder, but it was like a 26 years ago type murder. Alec Murdaugh was also a murder. This one stands out a lot because I can't think of any protesters in any of the other cases. I mean, Depp v. Heard, but that doesn't really count. They weren't really protesters. They were observers. They wanted to see Johnny. They wanted to be, part of history. In this case, we have active people. Listen to this. We have people who have been taking time out of their day over the last 2 years. Think about this, okay? They are a segment of the population who have taken time and devoted themselves to have their voices heard about what they believe is an injustice that is being done in Canton, Massachusetts, in Dedham, Massachusetts. That is extreme. That means that there's a whole lot. So you have the nucleus of the people who actually show up every day and protest, right? Let's call them, patient zero or whatever you want to call it. And then you have it's a bad example, but you get the point. That means you have this larger circle of people who are very, very upset with this case, who just don't have the time to show up every day. Maybe they come every once in a while, maybe they never come. And then you have this massive blob, in my opinion, of people who are dissatisfied, discontent, another dis word that I can think of right now, uncomfortable with the fact that a woman is being prosecuted for a crime she hasn't committed. And that's huge. That is huge. I've never seen that before in my life. And even, David Yannetti, I can empathize with him. There's nothing more difficult. These are my words, not his. But I'm sure he would echo them at the end when the trial is over. There's nothing scarier for a criminal defense attorney, and Mark, I'm sure you can say this as well. There's nothing scarier for a criminal defense attorney than to represent a client who you truly believe is innocent, because the stakes are just so high.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about this last week. It's a blessing and a curse. On the one hand, every lawyer wants the big case. Mike, lawyers are egomaniacs. Everyone wants attention. But when you get someone who's actually innocent and you're the last line of defense, you're the firewall. And if it gets pierced, it's, your fault that somebody innocent is screwed, then, that's the curse part of it that you have to live with. So, yeah, there's no question that it is good and it's bad, but it's also a motivator. It makes you do what these guys are doing, which is not only just prepare, but if you believe in what you're doing, it shows and it comes across as these guys really believe in what they're arguing. Now, juxtapose that against the dullard drone without a pulse. And if you are a juror and you see this guy droning on and on in a sensational murder case involving a police officer on, a dead police officer on another police officer's lawn, and the best Lally can do is just drone on and on and on and endlessly, then you sit there and you wonder, does this guy believe a word of what he's saying? Does he care? And maybe he does, but he's just not the personality and skill set for this kind of thing. So, on the other side, you have 3 lawyers who are projecting confidence, motivation, and belief versus a guy who looks like a stereotypical bureaucratic hack. It is what it is.
Right. Absolutely.
Look, I'm just
I
calling
love
it
it.
like it is. I'm sure
look
he's
at your
a very nice
Morrissey.
guy. I hate to say it, but that's the bottom line. And it's a murder case. She's fighting for her life. Okay.
Yes.
So you're looking at him and, he's the enemy, not in a literal personal sense, but in a professional sense.
Right.
And you want to clobber him and you want him to lose, and you want him to lose badly, because let's be honest, in order for Karen Reed to really get out of this, sure, she has to be found not guilty. That would be the worst thing if she's innocent and she gets convicted. But I don't think she wants to also be found not guilty and be under all this kind of suspicion and all of that. I mean, she has a career, a future, a life, and you don't want to be walking around being one of those people who makes the famous statement after they get acquitted, which is, well, where do I go to get my reputation back now? And there are a bunch of kooks and loonies who are always going to point fingers at her and believe she must have done this, because you just can't fix stupid. You can't convince everyone. So they want to demonstrate that legally she's not guilty, of course, but they want to really make it clear that not only is she not guilty, but she did get framed, she's innocent, and these are the wrongdoers. And, you know, so far, they haven't put on a single witness. This is all through cross-examination. This case is already basically a joke. I mean, we're not even close to a defense case, and it's a joke.
You got a question now for Attorney Bederow. Does the group text just highlight how untouchable the McAlberts felt?
Yeah, I mean, again, I think this group text is a perfect storm of bad for the DA for so many different reasons. I mean, the gratuitous reference to like get to Proctor, again, that's early too. That's within a couple of days. That's before she's arrested, I think, right? A day or two, maybe even before she's arrested. And we've been being told that there is no relationship between Proctor and this family, and yet they're talking about him right away. They're clearly talking about the story that they're denying, which they appear to be kind of sort of tacitly acknowledging with very curious language about when Brian Albert says exactly. They're using their other brother to try to find out what's going on. They're using McCabe as potentially another useful idiot in this part of the thing, which is go gratuitously drive by our house and take pictures. I mean, how pathetic, all of it. So, but yes, they look like they are circling wagons. We're going to talk to the cops. We're going to make sure we know what they're doing. They know what we're doing. We're going to spy on the cops, if you will. And yeah, so the answer is yes. It sums them up in their own words, in their own behavior. And it's a perfect demonstration of what the defense has been arguing they are. And it's their own words without a shred of sympathy to the police officers dead on their lawn. It's just so bad for the DA in so many different ways.
Yeah, it's a lot of questions coming in. Here's one. They want to know if the defense asking questions about seemingly inconsequential stuff like the play wrestling, the lawn stuff is laying the foundation so they can bring in more damning evidence.
I don't
and you
know. This whole thing about what Matthew McCabe calls grab ass, which, my God, how.
Oh my God, that moment.
I mean,
who says that?
That was just
over the age of 7.
Ridiculous. But, it was worth bringing out on the video. I don't know that getting into these guys doing their weird thing. I mean, I doubt that's going to lead to anything else. I don't know. So maybe they have something up their sleeve, but to me, the point's been made. And unless there's something really big coming that relates to Higgins and Albert, you've made the point. They're Neanderthals. I mean, look at them. They're standing in a bar. They're 50-something-year-old grown men. They've been drinking all day. All they do is drink to socialize. And now they're boxing and wrestling in a bar when they're with their wives and friends. And to me, it does seem inconsequential, to be honest with you, but maybe they've got something in their back pocket, but I've heard enough of the grab ass unless there's something there.
You have any quick comment on that, Larry, before we go to the next one?
Go to the next one. I think Mark summed it up.
This is a good one. What
yes.
are your thoughts on Bev's tone and attitude when Yannetti dropped the text from the FBI? She seemed rattled.
Well, I said something about this in live time as it happened. She's getting worse. Again, the petty stuff that we've talked about for weeks didn't really bother me. From a couple of days ago, letting in all of this evidence of, woe is me, the poor Alberts who get harassed. That was disgraceful. This was very telling because she did get very, she slowed it down to a grinding halt, delayed, come up, concerned. What is this? Where's my copy? You never heard her say that before. I didn't like her. She seemed flustered. And the reality is when you look at these texts, they're bad. And, even I don't think she's literally in the tank for the DA. I'm just not ready to go that far. If it turns out she is, I don't think she's having private meetings with Lally. As I've told you before, she's actually like most judges. Okay. If you try a lot of cases, most judges tend to skew prosecution. Even if they were legal aid attorneys and defense attorneys, they go the other way when they become judges. However, this today, she did look totally flustered. She looked like she didn't necessarily know what to do, whether to let it in, but she also knows, how in the hell do I not let in any of this? But she did grind it to a halt, and she did make it choppy. I mean, so I didn't like it. I mean, she did make him do it, where she takes away his momentum, and it does become a choppy presentation. I mean, the evidence is there. It's on the big board. Everybody sees it, but I'd like to think that when Jackson is doing this on Tuesday with Jen McCabe, that she sees all the messages in advance. Let's stop the nonsense. And, it's another criticism. Let the lawyers try the case instead of calling them up every 10 minutes, because I don't know what you're going to do. The other side objects, make a ruling. You don't need to have every 2 seconds tell me what's going to happen in advance. That's not how a trial is supposed to work. So my thoughts are that she was doing that again and was very concerned about what is happening here. And she seemed flustered. Totally.
You think so too, Larry?
Most definitely. Most definitely. I have not, any time that the prosecution tries to introduce texts, easy. Yeah, let it in, no problem. But today, the minute, I think, which text was it? I think it was the, I'm trying to remember. I tweeted about it. It was the text with respect to the guy, right? The guy text. Yes, that's the text that they were trying to get in. And I was like, I don't know what they were about to introduce. We found out after the fact. But after finding out after the fact, and I agree with Mark, how she tried so desperately to keep it out. And it was like text number 2. Do you remember this moment? Oh, you're talking about the third text on the page, Mr. Yannetti? No, Your Honor. I'm talking about the second one. Oh, no, that one Your Honor, we need to talk about that. And then do the sidebar. Remember that moment?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I was like,
It took a while.
Yeah, and they stood there for like 15 minutes, it felt like, just going
And
back
then it
and
was,
forth.
do I have the paper? Do you have the paper? Can I get a copy of that? It was just back. Yeah.
What I would do on Tuesday is you do this in advance before you bring the jury out and say, these are the texts we're going to be using. Let's get this over with now, because, Q&A has a rhythm to it, especially when have somebody who's potentially on the ropes. I mean, there is a cadence to doing it effectively and controlling a witness. And, you may get momentum, and you can't have this crap happening when Jackson is about to destroy somebody like McCabe. You got to let him do it his way, ask the questions in the way he wants to do it with the evidence that he has. And you can't be saying, come up to sidebar every 10 seconds. She's just got to stop with it. It's also just aggravating to watch. Not that anybody cares how we feel as observers, but from the jury's perspective too. And all it does is invite more speculation. What the hell is this? What's going on here? What are they not letting me see? And, I'm not sure she should be doing that either. I mean, she's inviting every time she does this to make jurors question and wonder about things that she shouldn't be doing. So, I mean, I think she's losing control of this. I told you this the other day too.
I think so too.
She completely lost control with this nonsense, prejudicial evidence of
crying.
Yeah, and
letting people cry.
Yeah.
Well, people are going to have emotions. I wouldn't go that far as to
No,
say.
the crying is now. Look, emotions are
natural.
fine. It's the testimony behind it saying, "Oh my God, I'm being harassed." That's not relevant. And again, the risk is they're going to attribute that to Karen Reed, and that's potentially very prejudicial. And at some point, they need to decide whether they want an instruction on that nonsense and have her say that has nothing to do with her, because now they may not want that. They may not want to draw attention to it at this point, since it's failing, at least with Jennifer McCabe. But who knows? She may very well turn on the tears, the real ones, on Tuesday and say, oh my God, I've been followed around for a year. I've been called the worst, whatever. They've been making fun of my physical appearance, and they've harassed my daughter. At some point, the due process rights and the fair trial go to the woman sitting next to the lawyers, not the person in the witness stand. So it really needs to stop.
Awesome. This is another great question here. Hypothetically, if someone sat down for a proffer with the U.S. attorney, but never given a cooperation agreement, would their admissions come out in the TUI?
Depends. I mean, it depends what is contained therein. It depends whether the government, and by government, I mean the federal government, determines whether they believe that fairness requires that the defense should have it. I mean, for example, I've had TUI cases when I had an FBI agent client before, and they make a determination that if they think that there's exculpatory evidence, I'm talking again from the federal view, and I assure you they have a much more reasonable view than the Norfolk County DA's office, which apparently has never heard of Brady versus Maryland. If Higgins made a proffer agreement and he said, for example, John O'Keefe was in the house, the feds are going to turn that over. They're going to be like, we can't in good conscience allow this trial to go in a way where, a key component of the defense is being concealed. So the answer is, it really depends what it says. And I would imagine that if Higgins did make a proffer and he's talking about this incident, which he clearly would be, that, yeah, they would turn that over. Now, again, you have to caution people. A proffer means nothing vis-a-vis a cooperation agreement. They're two totally different things. Sometimes they result in cooperation agreements, but all it is saying, we want to talk to you. And if you come in and talk to us, we'll give you limited use immunity, a queen for a day. That's all it means. I mean, does it sound suspicious? Yeah. I mean, they want to talk to you, but it may very well be nothing. And he may very well have said nobody came in the house. I don't know, but he's still absent. We're 40 witnesses in, and where is he? Are they going to call him? Is he a defense witness? I don't know.
Excellent. Well, Larry, I know you need to go pretty soon. So if anyone has any questions or comments for Larry tonight, definitely post them right now. I want to thank you for coming on tonight, and thank your wife too, because she hooked this up for me. Like, I hit her up and she got the message to you, and
Girlfriend.
oh, it's your girlfriend. I thought it was a wife. See, I'm screwed up everything. I hope I didn't blow up your game there. Okay. So girlfriend.
No,
I have
no,
a
it's all
girlfriend
good.
too, and sometimes I call her my wife. So I don't
No,
know.
we have. I'm teasing you, man. We call
It
each
is a
other,
wife.
and that's why I married you. It's not a wife, but she is a girlfriend.
Okay.
But we joke around all the time. It doesn't matter. Continue.
That's awesome. Well,
Yeah.
I want to thank you so much for being here tonight. Tell us more about your channel again, so people know where to find you, because it's, you have such a bigger follower than us. So I love that you came on like within a minute of me asking you to come on tonight. It was pretty cool.
Well, to be completely honest, I don't just do it for anybody. I have what's it called? I have heard about you. Let's just put it that way. And I've heard good things about you. And that is why when she showed me and I was like, oh, what's this? And you asked for me to come on, I was like, oh, hell yeah, absolutely. I wasn't just gonna, I'm very, very busy. And for me to start reaching out to everybody who's covering this case is impossible. And you're just one of them, in a group, if you will, not trying to be pompous or anything, but, being here and streaming every day gets exhausting.
It's hard. It's a lot of work. People don't realize it.
It really is. It's draining too. But when you made the invite, I said, I heard good things about this guy. Let's go. Let's have some fun. Let's chat. And I heard good things about Mark, who you regularly have on your show. And now you got the firsthand experience. So thank you for that.
Thank you so much for being here tonight.
Of course. My channel is the DUI Guy Plus. THEDUI. Wait. Yeah. THEDUIGUYPLUS. That's my channel. It's literally across every platform you can think of: Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, X, YouTube. I think that's all of them. I'm on every single one as the DUI Guy Plus. So you can find me. I have videos. TikTok. Almost forgot about TikTok. That's the sixth. I knew there was 6 of them. TikTok as well. I publish my own jury trials. I publish jury trials of the firm. I publish reactions to jury trials, police arrests, and so on and so forth. So I have my own original content, and of course I have the reaction content to other stuff. Like this afternoon, we released, for those of you who may know, shout out by the way in your chat, who knows who Jeremy and George Hales are? If that even, do you know them, Mike?
I've heard of them. People, I know a lot of people told me to check it out. I've checked out a little bit, but I don't know enough about it. The
It's
Karen Reed has
gonna
kind of taken over my life.
it's something you're gonna have to look into after Karen Reed is over. There's nothing urgent about it. But I released a video about what the Hales today, 2 hours ago. Jeremy released his video, I released mine. And I dissect, very short 12-minute video. I dissect the order that he just received, kicking Judge DeThomasis to the curb. So that's very exciting stuff. Very, very exciting stuff. I know a lot of people in your chat right now who are saying
They're
they
going
follow
nuts
them.
over it. Everyone's
I
talking
know.
about it. I can tell.
Exactly.
And they have your hashtags. You're like a mark. I want to ask you two more questions actually about this.
Sure.
There's a lot of creators who watch us too. Like we all go on each other's or support each other. Like you're good at this. What would your advice to be to someone who's like a creator, or whether it's Twitter, X, any of these places, or YouTube, Facebook, and what are the most popular platforms that you like get the most bang for your buck, so to speak?
Oh man, that's a tough question because it depends what your content is. If you're mostly reporting on current events, gossip that happens on a minute by minute, second by second basis, X and YouTube, I would say. If you want, if and who's your audience? Is it children under the age of 18, the 18 to 25 demographic? I would say go to Snapchat. If that's your demographic, go to TikTok. That's where they all lurk. If your demographic is like if you're selling toys or whatever, if you are wanting the little bit more like college age, I mean, you're still going to TikTok, Instagram. If your primary mode is imagery, imagery, Instagram is huge for that. Like paysages, clothing, art, music, you're going to go to YouTube and TikTok. So it depends on what your medium is. And that's where, or if you're a professional and you want to cater only to professionals, let's say you are a coach, like a business coach, I would go to LinkedIn. Forget everything else. LinkedIn and YouTube are going to be your bread and butter. So it varies. It's going to vary from place to place. And the other question is, are you looking to make money at what you do? Or are you just looking to spread the word, and that will generate the clients that will generate money? You know what I mean? Or do you want the actual platform itself to be revenue generating? So there are multiple questions you have to ask. And the other question is, getting monetized on YouTube is a question of numbers. So is getting monetized on X and Facebook, but on those two platforms, you actually need to put in a lot more work before they notice you, and they have to kind of manually notice you. Whereas YouTube, there's an automatic trigger, the 4,000 hours, 1,000 subscribers. I'm sure you crossed that bridge not that long ago. So that's a whole YouTube video in and of itself to have that conversation.
Thank you so much for sharing, because I think it's helpful for people who are, I think a lot of people in the Karen Reed movement have started YouTube channels. I know a ton of them, and, or on X, and, it's just great to talk about that stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you so much for being here. I know you got to go tonight.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me. People are saying in the chat, Mark, you need to create your own channel, brother. You are a solid dude.
That's a conversation for another day.
Yeah, we can help you with that too, Mark. Like,
We'll
there's a whole community who would help you do that.
I've got some opinions, as if you didn't know.
Yeah.
I love them. Well, Mike, Mark, thanks for having me. I'm going to peace out here and get some dinner. You all have fun, okay?
You too. Thank you, Larry. All right. That was amazing. I love to have him on. Do you have more time, Mark, or do you have to go too?
I'm fine. I'm home. I've got a dog at my feet, Bruins on the right, talking this stuff. It's fine.
What is the Bruins like 1-0, or what is there?
1-0. 1-0.
Cool. Good. Go Bees.
Hopefully. Yeah. So
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot more questions that are coming through. I
Okay.
might just read off some of them, I guess. I try to go through the best ones sometimes. Now they're all Larry questions because I asked for them, and then he had to go. Sorry, people, we didn't get them in time. Here's one asking about MS. MS affects the brain, and communications could have caused Karen to self-incriminate. Any thoughts on that as a defense? I mean, I
Well,
don't think.
from the
What do you think?
defense standpoint, it's that McCabe is full of shit. Katie McLaughlin is not reliable for several reasons. Some of the other cops didn't hear things right. And I mean, so I don't think that they're going to try to take a position that she might have made a mistake. I mean, I think certainly if she has MS and is under the incredible strain and stress of what's going on, that it would be understandable that she's running around screaming. And, you know, I go back to something you talked about earlier. I thought that both McCabe's were extraordinarily dismissive of her trauma in the moment. I mean, again, they're not suspecting her of doing anything evil at that point, and if they knew what happened, they certainly would have known. But I thought both of them were just, you know, tell her to shut up, she's going to wake up the neighborhood. And Jennifer with, oh, she's screaming, and you know, we had to tell her to be quiet. And they even went so far as to suggest that she went into O'Keefe's house with her shoes on, which, you know, we've heard so much evidence that he might have been a little OCD with cleanliness. But in the trauma of the moment where you think something terrible has happened, we're going to say, why didn't you take your shoes off? I mean, so I don't think they would ever try to use the MS as an excuse because they don't want her to have said anything. But interestingly enough, somebody else today tried to use their MS as an excuse, and that was Jennifer McCabe. And so you got the explanation for why she might have made a typo. They just can't tell it straight. You just made a typo. An S is next to the W. I don't have MS, and I've probably done that. I mean, throwing that out there in that way, again, I really think that this witness today came off on direct as nasty, which means on cross,
Right?
look out. It's
Yeah.
going to be ugly.
It's gonna be.
And
Let's go.
yeah,
Tuesday
no, I
morning.
think she came like real, you know, ready to go, even on direct. And some of that can be nervousness related to tension, related to, I know I'm lying, but it's easy to lie on direct because he tells you what I'm going to ask you. And, you know, you're just putting a story out there. But when you're being cross-examined by somebody as skilled as Jackson is, and clearly he is, clearly he's prepared and he knows how to do it, and they bounce around, they don't let her fall into a chronological thing, it becomes much harder to lie. And at some point when she's confronted with the electronics, I mean, what is she going to say? That you know, what her daughter said, which is, well, that's great, I don't care, it didn't happen, like, you know, she did with the Life 360. I guess that's what she's going to do. But the text messages, she's not going to be able to do that. And don't forget also, she's really exposed with the deletions. I mean, there's no timeline on that she can fall back on, like the nonsense about the Google search, because I was looking up at 2:30 in the morning girls basketball, and that it just doubled up on that. I mean, I don't think that's a credible argument anyway, but that's an argument. But the timeline is not in dispute for the deletions of only messages to the goon squad of all the people that are in this chain at
Exactly.
that time. So how is she going to explain that? There's no explanation other than we were covering something up. Now, what is the something? I don't know. It doesn't mean they committed murder and all that, but they're lying about something clearly related to O'Keefe and that night. So what is it? And is she just going to say, I didn't do that? Maybe. That's where the perjury potentially comes in.
Yeah. Maybe where her lawyer steps in, maybe.
I'm
Here's
sure
a
they're
comment. How do you
talking
feel?
frequently over the weekend, believe me.
Yeah. A comment about how do you feel about it's actually Jennifer McCabe's description of the rib glass and Matt McCabe's sudden recollection of the snow being dug up.
I mean, it's at this point, it's what you expect. It feels self-serving. It feels a little bit contrived, and there's no way to disprove it, but I don't think it adds anything. And I think jurors can see through it. They take notes in this case, so they can always go back and look. But again, look at the credibility of the people that are telling you this. Do they seem credible? One of the problems with all the online weirdos, every time they try to spike the football and say something happened, they automatically accept what every witness said, and they stop using their brain and say, go to step 2, which is it credible based upon the other evidence in the case, the witness's credibility? Is it corroborated? Does it just make sense? They just take any witness who says anything and they say, that's it. I mean, what's her face? The FBI lady did it again tonight. Jennifer McCabe was a home run, she said, for the prosecution. She hasn't even been subjected to cross. And she's already a home run. I mean, how stupid is that? That's not even sincere analysis. That's just nonsense. But it doesn't surprise me that the McCabe's and Alberts and these people would quickly remember things that they seem to think would be helpful to their case.
Got another comment about why Matt McCabe was blindsided by the text and discovery. Because there's discovery. I'm guessing because there's so much discovery and Lally's incompetent. I mean, 3,000 pages from the feds, right?
Well, what's interesting is when these materials were given over, I don't know, a couple of months ago or whatever it was, and there was this big argument in court, and the defense made this dramatic statement about there's so much exculpatory evidence. And exculpatory just means favorable to the defense. It doesn't have to be literal proof that she didn't do it. It can relate to credibility, or like these messages. These are clearly favorable to the defense that you saw today. And my recollection, and somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't Lally's immediate pushback that there's nothing in there that changes everything? It's 90% consistent with our case. And well, that may be, but the rub is the other 10%, you dope. It could be really important. And he had to be aware of this. Somebody raised the question earlier today, well, maybe he was restricted under the protective order of showing it to the witnesses. I find that hard to believe. That I haven't seen the protective order, but that the protective order would allow a reasonable basis to prepare for trial and show a witness their own communications, in which in theory they have anyway, right? I mean, not these people because they delete and whatever.
Right.
But bottom line is, for McCabe to be Matthew McCabe to be caught off guard and have no clue that this was coming speaks once again so poorly for the DA, because he looked like a deer in the headlights. You could see it. Some people say he was muttering under his breath about, oh my God. But his whole demeanor changed, and he had to sheepishly read it into the record. And then, I got a kick out of the way they ended it. That's kind of how I would do it, where he says, we're done here, as if to suggest to the jury, pay attention to what just happened. And I'm disgusted with these people, and, we're finished. It makes no sense that they could be blindsided by this. And if that happens again with McCabe and these other ones, I can't even fathom how that could happen in a murder case of this magnitude, but it did.
Here's another comment asking, they said that Yannetti or AJ asked one of the troopers if Karen Reed was placed alone or with Jen Carey in the back of his car. I think it's one of the town police officers, actually. His response was she was alone. This debunks Jen's Google search story. Did I get it right?
Well, I don't know if it's 100% right, but her Google search story is going to get debunked anyway, even if you want to give her the benefit of the timeline generally, because if she's sitting in the back of the trooper's car, what's happening? The camera's rolling. And according to her, she's sitting in the car with Karen Reed, and those cameras are like GPS synchronized. You've seen them. They have the coordinates literally on the planet Earth. In other words, the time is correct. So And you know from the Google history that she claims the search was at 60 whatever. Well, all you need to do is look at all the tape and see if that at that exact
Where
time,
she's at.
where is she sitting there? And if
Maybe
she
she's
is,
in the house. Yeah.
she may very well be.
They'll
If she
figure it
is,
out.
that's right. They're going to figure it out. But to me, the bigger part is if she was in the car with her, as she claims, and that's not true. But then she adds in the extra details of, oh, we were praying. I mean, that's something you wouldn't forget. And there's going to be no evidence of them sitting in the car praying and searching Google. It doesn't make any sense. So I think she's going to get, and plus I think you're going to see evidence that it occurred closer to 2 a.m. And by the way, if the defense proves that, then Lally should pack up his bag and go home, because what possible explanation could there be for, 2 hours before you got a phone call, or even 3 hours from Karen Reed saying, oh my God, that she's already searching that. And to me, that's just game over right there.
Right. Here's one that I'm not supporting, but I'll throw it out there. Possible defense, Fed info, judge is involved, that the defense has info from the feds that the judge is involved.
No, she wouldn't be presiding over the case.
That's right.
They
Throw
would,
it out.
they were, even if they weren't look, I'm not suggesting any of this, but God forbid that was going to happen. They would have to let in the local authorities and whoever runs the courthouse in terms of the administrative judge and say, listen to us, you need to administratively remove her. That's all we're going to say right now, but you need to do that. But I don't want to even go down this rabbit hole. There's no way.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I put the comment up just because it
It's all
came
right.
in, and Michelle, we asked your question.
But that's the problem with, she's giving the perception that
Exactly.
she's biased, and it creates this perception that she may be doing things really, that she shouldn't be doing. So in some ways that's her fault. Although that doesn't mean one should conclude that she's corrupt, literally.
Dave group chat was on the day Karen Reed was arrested. So why make sure to say he wasn't in the house?
Well, if you accept that, this was a hastily thrown together patsy that they found, it's not the most sophisticated cover up in the world if that's what happened. And they have to assume at some point there could be further questions. They have to assume at some point that what happened is exactly what happened, that she got real lawyers who did a real investigation and everything could be exposed. So they need their story. But I think this was actually a day before she got arrested. I think, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But they just want to make sure they're protected. And, you wonder if, in listening to the way Jen McCabe describes it today, you wonder if the whole Patsy theory generated from a comment where she said, oh my God, did I hit him? Or I broke my light, or something like that. And when they all huddled up and said, what do we do? What do we do? And they said, that's what we do.
Yeah, it seems
It'd be very bad.
plausible.
I mean, that'd be very, you'd have to really not like her to do. I mean, that's sick and perverse to do that. And that's probably one of the DA's arguments that they're going to make, is that just never mind the mechanism of how could could they literally do it, but you'd have to be some kind of sicko. And of course, the defense argument is like, exactly. Look at them. I
Look at
mean,
him.
yeah, no.
There's another one. Yeah. Could Lally, this keeps coming up in that chat too. Could Lally
No.
be working for the feds? No, he's not.
No,
working for the
he's
feds.
working for food and paying a mortgage. I mean,
He's working for cigarettes.
look, he's clocking in and clocking
State
out.
pension. Yeah.
He's a bureaucrat. I mean, some lawyers are patty makers. That's what he is. And he's doing his job, and he shows up every day like Mr. Reliable, and he's gonna, it's time to make the donuts. He's gonna go to court.
I love this comment. He just sucks. That's one way to say it. I like how Mark says it. He's just a guy who makes patties.
He's a patty maker.
He's a patty
Sometimes you get patties, sometimes you get filet mignon. He's not the filet guy. But that's, but that doesn't mean you should be trying sophisticated homicides either. It's crazy.
Exactly.
He should be trying like DWIs of like, kids who, got arrested
We're
for the
gonna
first
plead
time for
guilty.
stealing. Right. I mean,
Every time I got in trouble, I was just like, all right, can we, let's make a deal when I was young. I mean, that's what you do. If, especially if
someday,
you did something wrong and you want to make amends and get it over with, that's what you do. You just say, what are we talking about here?
see,
Those
someday
are the cases he should be doing.
I hope eventually when, they do the autopsy on this whole sordid, sick, rotting corpse of a case, that they get an answer as to how could it be that he ends up trying this case. And it's not to tank it, but in that office, there's got to be somebody who can try a case. I mean, this is that case. You need, you need the big guns on a case like this. And they have a pop gun.
Yeah. We'll see what happens on it's gonna be exciting on Tuesday morning.
It's gonna be a bloodbath in there.
I kind of like Monday off. We get a little rest. Like we've been going and going, and now it's almost like Christmas. We're waiting for Tuesday.
Think of this. You're exhausted watching and preparing all this. But I mean, imagine you're Lally doing this all by yourself.
Oh
I mean,
man.
this is crazy. I can't believe what they're doing to this guy. And to just be humiliated like this. It's my God.
And like it's the media is picking up on it now. Like a lot of the media was kind of like, we're covering it. They weren't, but the local media, when I see this on the front cover of the Herald, I'm like, oh, now they got the bloody knuckles on the front cover of the Herald.
Well, I mean, he has chronic knuckle injury syndrome. It's twice. It is troubling, and there's a picture of him shortly after with bloody knuckles. But apparently, the DA says they have a picture when he had clean knuckles. I don't know what it means, but he certainly was not what I would call an impressive witness, and his explanation for the knuckles was terrible. And I think that probably has a lot to do with it. I mean, he's clearly been implied to have been one of the physical bad actors, if you buy what the defense is suggesting. And he turns out to be some, 20-year-old hothead, but he comes in looking like this and says, I'm a good boy. I'd never get in a fight in my life other than, screwing around with my brothers when we were 12. But, the knuckle injuries from falling on the pavement or from hitting the bag. What do you say? I'm getting cardio.
Yeah, I'm getting cardio. How about
boxing?
that?
I'm getting cardio. I mean, so I'm not surprised that they were interested in him, but I don't know what's going to happen with that test. I think his alibi, for lack of a better term, isn't great because I don't think his friend or cousin, whatever she is, helped him out too much.
Or his father. His timeline.
Father.
Yeah.
But what's interesting is, at least as it stands right now, there is nothing in the evidence right now to suggest that he did anything in the house. There's certainly plenty of evidence that he's not being honest about his comings and goings in the house, but there's nothing to suggest what, if anything, what, if anything, he did in the house.
Exactly. And it's interesting to see that, Ted Daniel posted, he seemed to get the significance of these texts today. I'm wondering what the coverage is going to be like on Boston 25 and everywhere else, but it seems like they're getting what we're getting. The media is seeing the same story right now. We're all on the same page. Maybe is that? Yeah. What do you
look? You couldn't. I mean, short of admissions of, oh my God, we don't want them to find out that we killed them and that kind of stuff. Short of those kind of ridiculous texts, you couldn't ask for anything better. I mean, you have them making up a cover story that literally suggests O'Keefe is in the house. Again, you have a clear connection to Proctor. You have their concern that is a witness telling the police the right story. What if they don't believe her? And you have Matthew McCabe running around, giving updates on what the cops are doing and get us photographic evidence. And then, make sure you tell Chris to tell him. I mean, it sums it up beautifully.
It sure does. It really does.
It's a gift to the defense.
Like a bow tie. Oh, this was the best too. At the end, David Giannetti said, "We're done."
Yeah.
Like it was
Yeah, but that's part of the like art of trial lawyer. Like that's something
Right.
that Lally couldn't do. He's sending a message. We're disgusted, and he's also sending a message. What I just did was very, very important. Pay attention, understand what's happening, and to let them know that we know we just landed a lot of body blows. I mean, they scored a real ton of points.
Ran it up. It was
Yep.
like you could tell McCabe too was like shitting himself when he found out like where this was going. It was like
He looked like, as I said, he looked like he's going to collapse. I mean,
Yeah.
he's just, that little smirk was off his face.
that was gone. No more smiling.
No, I mean, he was real sheepish when he was forced to read it, and he was looking for a lifeline, and there was nothing to give him. And he knows he's on TV. I mean, it just becomes a perfect storm of bad. And then, of course, the Asian house thing, which I'm sure he's like, oh shit, I don't want people.
Right. With two Asians sitting in front of him on the jury.
And well, I mean, if you go back to that one real fast, I know somebody
Oh, yeah.
talked about this earlier, but I didn't put this in more context. The troopers are back out front. Okay, they're in front of the Asian house, so it's almost like in Raiders of the Lost Ark. They're digging in the wrong place, where they get all excited. So, I mean, he seems to be saying they're not in the right place yet, but they're digging through the snow. They might find, like, this really strikes me as this is nerve-wracking. And this message was sent at what time? Can we tell it? I see she read it at 1:36, but what time did he send it? I don't know if I can tell from this.
2:04. No, that's when Coco got it. I'm not sure.
Well, I don't know. But anyway,
You looking?
1:42. Anyway, the point is that looks like a really nervous update that they might find something we don't want them to find if they keep digging. Looks terrible.
Yeah. And then there's this one too, which is
This one is
when they were looking for John. Jen sent this to John O'Keefe when John was missing with Karen.
This is one where I would assume that they're going to argue that is probably some of the strongest evidence of her fake concern under their theory that you knew damn well at 2:07 what was going on, because she was telling us again on the witness stand how close she is to him. And she tried to have the tears that wouldn't come. I mean, she tried, but they didn't really come out. And then it manifests itself in Karen is worried and we need to find you, which implies, what do you mean? Like a body? I mean,
Right.
I mean, is that like a slip as opposed to call us right away? Where are you?
Where are you? That's what it, where are you? Call us. That's what everyone would say.
What person would tell another person that they believe to be alive, again, thinking this through carefully, would send a message saying, we need to find you, as opposed to call me. Where are you? Tell me what's going on. Say something. We need to find you. It's a weird language. Doesn't prove anything, but I think it's a very weird phraseology.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely strange. That is one of the most. And that guy too.
Yeah.
Here's a question about Morrissey. You think there's any ramifications for Morrissey, especially after the innocent McAlbert Proctor public video?
I mean, at a minimum, my God, vote him out. At like an absolute minimum, ultimately, the safest way to get rid of him is to vote him out. But ethically, that press conference he gave was so inappropriate for so many different reasons, so much inaccurate information. He was acting like a shill for what you keep calling the McAlberts. And you could picture texts existing where they're like, get him to do this. Somebody call Chris, call him and tell him to say something on our behalf. Cause that's what it felt like. When he gave that press conference and they were all upset about the Alberts getting harassed, even if he wanted to give that press conference, all he had to do was say, stop harassing witnesses. It's not appropriate. And that's it. That's what you do. Done. You're done with it. But he turns it into Let me tell their story. Let me tell you the evidence we have against her. And let me tell you how good these people are. And he just goes off the rails. And it almost feels like a hostage video. Like, what do they have on him? I don't know.
Right.
Maybe nothing. But I mean, why would a DA pimp himself out with such a ridiculous press conference with all this information that turns out to be inaccurate and subject himself potentially to, attorney discipline?
I want to ask a question about Turtle Boy. I think we talked about this before,
Yeah.
but I just wanted because it's come up today. He's talking about his case too. If Karen Reed is found innocent or not guilty, I should
Not
say,
guilty,
not
right.
guilty. Let's say the
Right.
verdict comes back not guilty. Is it much easier? It would seem much easier and likely that maybe even the charges get dismissed against him for harassment of witnesses and all this other stuff that they've
Well,
put out there.
there's a couple angles to this. If she's found not guilty, then I think jury selection, if it went to that for him, becomes easier because people are going to inherently think maybe, he got screwed and these are bad people. But there's something more practically. If she's found not guilty, okay, odds are the jury credits a lot of what the defense is saying. The Alberts and McCabe's are injured in this case, meaning they've perjured themselves or they've been exposed. Then the question becomes, do they have a shred of credibility? How are you having them testify as a matter of logistics? How do you bring the case against him with these witnesses who are just chewed up and spit out and nobody believes, and put them and say, yeah, but I still got harassed. And meanwhile, not that it would directly relate to his defense, but they want to make it clear. Yeah, but we think we have a truth defense in what we're saying about you. And it wasn't harassing. It was just reporting because you're terrible people. I mean, why would the Alberts and McCabe's and all these people who claim they're being harassed even cooperate when they get completely disgraced as a result of the Karen Reed case? And I would expect that they wouldn't probably cooperate at that point, especially if they're potentially going to be subjected to federal investigation for other things. I would also think that, and I don't know when the guy's up for election, but if you got rid of Morrissey and put in a real DA, that they might just dismiss the case, which they may not want to do. I mean, I'm not going to suggest they're going to like him. I mean, I don't think a DA, whether you consider it journalism or not, fundamentally thinks it's a great idea to go hunt down people who may be witnesses in a case and, go to their sporting events. On the other hand, it doesn't mean it's illegal either. It just may be something you find uncouth or improper or whatever. But on the other hand, he kind of exposed all of this. And I mean,
Yeah, without him, I don't know.
journalistically, it's amazing what he did.
Yeah.
Whether you approve of his manner, methods, and behavior and all of that. I mean, but on the merits of what he uncovered, it's nuts. It's like amazing.
It is. I like looking at him like Batman, like the Dark Knight. Like it's not like perfect, but
I mean,
man, how can you
look,
argue with it? Like with what he did actually in terms of getting the word out.
Is it probably a good idea to have these polls of like, who's the biggest, and I won't use the words and that kind of stuff? Probably not. And to say some of the language, and I mean, look, everyone does their own thing, but that I'm sure that pisses off people, including this DA's office, who, if you took a private poll of the people in the DA's office who matter and said, if we're going to win one and lose one, which one do you want? I'll bet you they'd say nail him and let her go.
Right? Seriously.
They look
They're
at
more
him.
mad at him. That tells you everything about it.
They look at him like he's the great white whale, right?
Yeah.
They just, and they're Captain Ahab, and they're just going to keep chasing him until they get him. I mean, they can't stop. It's insane.
Yeah, which is going to sink them in the end. This is a good question. They want to know if they thought the Matt McCabe recross was a bit of a misstep because Allie didn't clear up who the them was. But Yannetti asked Matt, and he said it was Channel 7.
I mean, look, he tried to sneak it out there that what I was talking about was the media. If there is no recross on that doesn't come out, and you just make the argument. On the other hand, I mean, the story that McCabe gave is kind of, I mean, they're sitting there freaking out about this is what we're going to tell the press, and since it's true, that's what we're going to do. I don't think in the context of all the messages, and this is what the good lawyers would do in a summation, that you don't look at each message in isolation, but look at the group and look what's going on. They're digging. They're in the wrong lawn. I'm going to take a picture. Oh my God, did she tell, get in touch with Proctor, tell the truth. I don't think a real lawyer who marshals this evidence is not going to be able to explain to the jury that ask Chris to ask some questions. And tell
That's a
them
big one. And
Well, it makes-
I put the name Albert in there because
Yeah.
he didn't say Albert, but we know who it is. It's Chris Albert
Right.
he's talking about there.
But
And
it
it's-
also makes no sense, because why would you send Chris to ask the reporters questions? That's 180 degrees in the wrong way. If that message wasn't followed by tell them he never went in the house, and that first message wasn't there, then they might have a better argument in isolation to say, tell them. By them, I meant the press. But when you look at this all together, they look nervous and they're circling the wagons. And it's
Right.
exactly what the defense has been alleging. And you're seeing it in print. So,
And they could be two separate things. I think, and part of it, they could have been talking about the press and some of the conversation, but
Maybe.
clearly when he says, ask Chris to ask some questions, he's talking
Yep.
about Chris Albert, who is the elected selectman in town, who is
Right.
the brother of Brian Albert.
Yep.
Matt is advising Brian and the rest of them to ask Chris
yep.
to ask the police about what's going on. I mean, that's because he's a Canton Select Board. I mean, that's clear inference. I think anyone is going to, I think it's very probable that that is exactly what they were asking him to
Oh
do.
yeah, no, I think it makes perfect sense for what the defense is going to argue, and that in any event, there's no way that the DA is going to be able to poo-poo all of these messages and say this doesn't mean anything. Because also, when you marshal evidence, you're just putting more and more together, and it makes all of the available evidence look more credible. So you see what Brian Albert's doing here, okay? And exactly. Now go back and say, ladies and gentlemen, does that make you, how do you look now at his butt dialing excuse? Does that look
Yeah.
the same or more likely or less likely, knowing that he's huddling the family, looking around and saying, we're going to tell him this exactly? I think anybody would say the butt dial excuse, which already probably had a 0.5% chance of anybody believing, is maybe 0.25%. Now, when you look back and you say, oh, I got rid of my phone, which would have had all these messages, by the way, the day before the preservation letter, is that gratuitous, or did he know something? It's probably more likely he knew something. So you pile it up, and the McCabe deleting the calls and this,
Right.
thi-
And the
this
dog, no one heard. The dog didn't
dog
wake
that
them up.
nobody heard.
It's just so
These-
much stuff.
Yeah, these
The
texts are a
pile.
roadmap to discredit all of them. I mean, this is like a daisy cutter. It just wipes them out. It's terrible for them.
This is another great comment here from Dag Navitt. He says, they say if the McAlberts all fried their phones, they probably can't even remember all the guilty text. And it brings me up to Matt McCabe when he got that extra page. It seemed like he wanted to read them all, maybe as intelligence for the rest of them, because they might not even have
Right.
copies of this stuff because the TUI doesn't supply that. This evidence came from the TUI docs. The witnesses probably don't get access to that. They're not supposed to. And so if
I'm
they
not
get rid of their
sure
phones, they
about
may not
that.
have this stuff,
I
right?
mean, I think you'd have to, I mean, I don't know what the protective order and what the understanding in the feds disclosing it is.
Right.
At some point, if it's going to be used for trial is not supposed to be trial by surprise or ambush. I'm
Yeah.
not sure that the order would not permit showing at least a witness their own communications. I mean,
Correct.
it's not supposed to be a game of gotcha. So I'm not so sure that Lally would not have been allowed, if he chose to prepare, to at least say, let's talk about your communications, as opposed to showing him everyone else's. I don't know what the protective order says, but I doubt very much they would not be allowed to show a witness his own communications. But with Lally's history in the case and letting the witnesses just implode in live time in front of him, it's clear he didn't show him, whether he was allowed to or not. I mean, he clearly didn't.
I got some people upset. I haven't posted their super chats or asked the questions. I'm sorry. There's so many of them. It's hard to do them all. I'm going to do this one from Bay Harbor Beauty. If Karen would have actually gone in, would have the fight still happened? What if she showed up later? Was this entire thing planned? I don't think either one of us know any answer on that. What do you
No,
think,
I
Attorney
mean,
Beder?
I don't know. I mean, just with the benefit of hindsight, it's a good thing she didn't go in. I don't know if her being there would have stopped this, that, or the other. I don't know. I mean, I don't even to this day, I have no clue what would have happened if anything in the house. But all I know is that the aftermath of whatever did or didn't happen in the house, they're all acting like really, really guilty people in the way that they handled those several days after this. And it doesn't mean you know what they did inside, but they're covering up something. That's for sure.
There's a comment that I think is a good one. He said,
a good one.
I think Karen was a last minute scapegoat. Originally, final plan was to blame Lucky, the plow guy. That's very possible.
That's possible. And, I saw some of the commentators, including, a guy I told you I know from before, and trying to say, and even some of like the Wendy idiots get into this too. But, why would they, if they're going to kill him in their house, dump him on the front lawn and all this? And I think they're forgetting a few key facts. It's starting to snow heavily. Do you want to be driving around town when there's no cars out there? Is that suspicious? You get picked up on Ring cameras. You're the only car out there. Or you get in an accident. You slide off the road. Little things like that. And they arguably, you use, like under this theory, you use the snow to your advantage. If he's out there and he gets plowed up and gets hit, then he's going to have a lot of wear and tear on his body, and people will just chalk it up to he was out drinking, something terrible happened, he fell down, and it's a terrible accident. And I mean, that's an interesting theory. I don't think you can dismiss that out of hand.
Definitely not. Here's another question. Said Bev said, I don't know why you're objecting. She never should have made a ruling of no speaking objections. That's backfiring and causing so many delays. What do you think about that?
I agree. I mean, she's making this her. I mean, look, judges can do whatever they want to run their courtroom as long as they're not literally trampling on, a defendant's rights. But I don't find her to be particularly efficient. These sidebars are dumb. They take up time in the normal course of things. If somebody's going to offer evidence that the other side doesn't want, they stand up and object. And the judge would say, what basis? And if she sustains it, she sustains it. I don't know why everything has to be done at the bench repeatedly. She's probably already in real time added actual hours over the course of 3 weeks of lost time just dealing with all this bench nonsense.
It's crazy. It's so much time during the day. Yep. Sidebar Bev is what I call her.
It's funny.
There's another one on the conspiracies. This stuff we don't know. I mean, here's a question. Do you think Matt was the lookout? I mean, I don't think it was pre-planned, but you never know. I mean, we don't know. How could we know? There's no evidence of any of that. So
it would be really hard I mean, again, there are good people and there are awful people, and you don't know sometimes what people are capable of, but it would be really hard pressed for me to believe, just based on watching, that the McCabe's would somehow be part of a literal lure a man to his death.
Exactly.
However, I mean, we're criticizing them a lot right now, but are they, conspirators?
Are they in that deep?
Murder?
I don't think they are.
No, right? I mean, that's hard to believe. And now in terms of covering up, there's a lot of evidence to suggest they might be, but that doesn't mean that they're literally trying to set up the guy who they know and the kids that he adopted, his niece and nephew. I mean, that would be real devious. It's hard.
If anything, I would think it was just maybe to teach him a little lesson, rough him up. But I mean, even that, I don't believe. I think it's like what we said before. Like I said before, booze and ego. I mean, that's that's how shit starts. A lot of people die that way. There was a
I don't
fist
know why
fight.
they'd have any problems with him. I mean, he seems like
Yeah.
a normal, go with the flow,
Exactly.
likable guy. I mean, he doesn't seem confrontational. And the other thing, which I can't get over, is, he's in the same department as Brian Albert. I mean, doesn't mean they have to be best friends, but you'd think that might count for something. Guy's willing to go to New York to go to a police funeral, but here's a guy who's from his same very department, and he just apparently has zero interest in anything other than get this story off my lawn, literally.
Which is weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, if they're not guilty, they sure know how to make people think they are. I mean, that's the thing about this thing,
If they're
right?
not guilty, then why not say, oh my God, this is horrible. He was supposed to come here. This is, da 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 da. What do we do to help? He's a brother police officer. This is terrible. No, they just kind of circle the wagons. Looks guilty.
Yep. So it's now 9 o'clock. We've done 2 hours again. Well, not quite 8:58. Close enough. I want to thank you again for spending the time tonight and answering all these questions. We've had a lot of questions. I know there's even more in the chat, but we do have to break it off eventually. I want to thank you, Attorney Bederow.
Thank you.
Will we see you Tuesday? Hopefully Tuesday night. That'll be the next time.
Yeah.
Are you
we
on
can-
trial again? What's going on?
Yes. Yeah. On trial still for an innocent female woman, an actually innocent female woman. So it may ring a bell, who's getting very aggressively prosecuted in Queens, New York. So yeah, no, that trial is on Monday and Tuesday. It's a bench trial. We opted for a bench trial.
So that's what the judge deciding. Is that what?
Yep. Which there are reasons to do that, which is topic for another day strategically. But yeah, so we'll be on Monday and Tuesday, and then we go on our Memorial Day break. And then, as I said, I'm coming to where you guys are. I'm going Thursday. Definitely going to Kowloon, no question. Have to do that.
Yeah.
All the other stuff. So yeah, we'll be there. Go to all our favorite haunts while we're there.
Awesome. I can't wait. You'll be back for Boston, New York. It's going to be great. Good luck, Celtics. And the Bruins are still winning tonight.
No, they're not winning. They're tied.
1-1.
Yeah. They're doing what the Bruins tend to do. Get ahead early and slowly break your heart late. But that's what they do.
Yep. Well, hopefully we'll see what happens tonight. Well, the Celtics are going far. That's the big one.
They better. That would be disappointing.
Yeah.
Very disappointing. Them you expect to win. The Bruins, it's kind of house money. But yeah, we'll see.
Awesome. I want to thank you so much for being here again to answer everyone's questions. It was a great end of the week for all of us, I think, on this case anyways.
Yeah, that was kind of wow. That was one of those rare moments of, did I just hear what I think I heard? I wish they built it up a little more so more people would have been ready for that, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you have this dope who's just reading a message and it says that, and you say, did I just hear that right?
Yeah.
Very
Did that
powerful.
really happen? It was
Yeah,
like, wow.
Yeah. Yep.
But I good luck with the trial too. Someone just said that because I would love to hear about it after it's over when you can talk about it. That would be awesome.
Yeah, no, that's great. I hope to have good news.
Awesome.
Great.
Well, thank you so much. Have a great rest of your weekend. Attorney Mark Bederow, Bederow Law on Twitter and X, and bederowlaw.com is the website. Thank you so much, Mark.
Have a good one. Have a good weekend.
You too. Go Bruins. That's Mark Bederow. I want to thank our guests tonight. Larry Forman, DUI. Yeah, let me say that right. DUI Guy Plus at DUI Guy Plus on, you heard him. He's everywhere. He's on TikTok. He's on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook. He even named some social media sites I've never even heard of. He gave us some great advice and a lot of good input on the jury. One thing I regret, I should have asked him more about Yannetti and Jackson. He met them and took a picture with them. He did talk about that tonight a little bit, about some of their conversations, which was awesome. He shared quite a bit with us, especially about the jury. I really appreciate Larry coming on tonight and giving us that kind of jury insight. And also just, he's got Larry is amazing. I wish I got to watch him more. I've watched him a few times, but I really like the guy. He's funny. He's nice and very happy he came on tonight. The first time on the show. And also, obviously, Mark coming back over and over again. He's a great defense attorney. I want to thank everyone who's been supporting us and in the super chats. I don't even know. I hope I posted them all tonight. There were so many. We had look, we're up to 66. Do you know how hard that is to try to ask every question and post everyone? I hope I did. If I didn't get yours in, I'm sorry. I'm trying my best. I'm just gonna post a couple more that came in. Jeannie says, "What I love the most is that Jen got up and told her story, not knowing that Matt just got fried in front of the jury with those texts." That's funny. Dag Nabbit, another donation. Thank you so much, Dag Nabbit. He says, Brian Albert, if they don't investigate, that's on them. Do they pick up on how indifferent Albert was to finding the murder of a fellow Boston cop? I know. I wonder if Paul O'Keefe picked that up. Did you get that, Paul? And that wasn't like months later, frustrated by the that was right at the beginning. Someone said, I'm just surprised they didn't put him in the street a few feet away. Here's one. Scale 1 to 10. How pathetic is Bella's mom motive? I mean, I don't think we have to say anything about that. Speaks for itself. I think I got most of the super chats. I want to thank everyone who's been super chatting and sending donations and all our regular commenters. I hope you don't feel left out tonight. Trying to keep up with all the other ones. It's tough to keep up. Tough to keep up with the chat. I tried to my best and ask questions and keep it going. Stephanie says it's an exhausting week for sure. Absolutely, it is. It's been exhausting for all of us. I want to thank our mods. Stephanie's now one of our mods, and I especially want to thank MJ, who's been our first and only mod for a while. She's been keeping up on this. I want to thank MJ for supporting us and everyone who's been kicking in. And I know some of you other folks want to mod too. I have to find you on the chat. It's weird. I never have time to do this stuff. So I want to thank you all for sticking with me. Free Karen Reed said, please post my of course one. I had a few good ones. I think I did post that, but we just did. You wanted Unetti, I believe, to add in, of course. I'll look for it now. Well, we just did post that one, right? See what I mean? We are always missing them. There's so many here tonight. Just hope I didn't miss more, though. I'm trying to get them out. Here's one about Jeremy Heels. I don't think I posted earlier. Jules says, Keith Schaefer and I say hello. We love your channel. Thank you so much, Jules and Keith Schaefer. I'll just post some more. Thank you, Kim Marie, for subscribing tonight. See, I'm going through them. There's so many here, bro. I'm just going to keep posting until I get to, hopefully, all of them. Here, maybe this one is it. Yeah, I don't think I posted this one earlier, too. Why the DA brought this week as F case. Because it's a Boston cop and they needed to blame somebody. And I don't think they thought it would go this far. Oh, here's a question that came for me that I didn't ask earlier. Luna's mom, and it's a $50 donation. Wow. She says, Mike, what do you think the next select board meeting is going to be like? I mean, effing random citizens called the CPD Keystone Cop stuffs, and now they are laughing stock of the nation. Dare I say the world? Go read a Lombardi. I'm not sure. we'll see what happens. We'll be broadcasting it for sure. I'm not sure what's going to happen at the next select board meeting. I'm sorry we had to check out last night on the audit committee hearing. I double booked. I didn't realize it would go longer than an hour. I thought we would have that from 7 to 8 and then 8:20 with Mark, but it didn't turn out that way. It was almost, I think it went over 2 hours actually, the audit committee hearing. So next select board meeting, we definitely will be airing. Going to be interesting. See what happens now. Hopefully I didn't miss any. I think I got most of the super chat comments up now. I also just want to check Venmo and the Cash App. I also want to play a little video out. I want to play more of the Matt McCabe. That stuff is so good, man. All right. Stacy McGovern or Stacy sent $10 and she said, love you having MB on each night to discuss the trial. Thank you so much, Stacy. She sent $10 on the Venmo. Christine also sent $10. She said, thank you for your coverage, Free Karen Reed. Thank you, Christine. $10 donation on Venmo. Thank you so much. Also, James sent $5. He said, I think the defense has the Bluetooth info from Jen McCabe's phone. Her phone didn't hook up to car, and the whole Bella directions in 2022 with smartphones is BS. My guess was at 12:18 that JOO's phone data will show him at 34 Fairview. Wow. That would be something, James. All right, those are the Venmo donations tonight. Thank you so much. And check the Cash App real quick. Jimmy sent $5 for a great show. Thank you so much, Jimmy. All right, I want to thank you all for donating, supporting, subscribing. We're over 12,000 now. Amazing. Just the other day we broke 10 and now we're at 12. So I want to thank everyone who's been supporting, subscribing, donating. It's amazing. And of course, you can still support Karen Reed, freekarenreed.net. I would suggest people donate there as well. If you want to support her defense, this is very expensive what she's going through. I would also suggest supporting Turtle Boy. He's got a defense fund. You can just do a Google search for that. That will pop right up. There's also the Canton 9 you could donate to. And Janelle, the dispatcher at Z Dispatcher on Venmo. A lot of people have been affected and been charged over this beyond even Karen Reed. So it's important to support them as well. I'm definitely going to be due to give Janelle another donation. I've given her a few donations, little ones. And every once in a while, I just send some money over to her on the Venmo. I suggest other people do that too. My name is Mike Crawford. Again, I want to thank the guests tonight, DUI Guy Plus, Larry Forman. Follow him on X or YouTube or TikTok or Facebook, Instagram. He's on them all. I also want to thank Mark Bederow for being here all the time and being here again tonight. Huge night at Bederow Law. You can follow him on X as well. We're going to leave tonight with, I thought we were talking a lot about Jen McCabe tonight and how difficult she was just with Adam Lally and where it's going to go next with her on Tuesday, which will be exciting. But her husband, this was interesting today. We got to play it again. I'm going to go right back to her husband to close it out here tonight.
Yes.
went back, I think I did. I said I was gonna try to take a picture.
Right, well, that's my point.
Yeah.
You weren't, just having seen the troopers back out there at that house, in your mind, you still weren't done, correct?
I was going to take a picture to show them, oh, the troopers are outside your house.
Right, so in answer to my question, you weren't done with that scene, correct?
I think I was, because I don't know if I took a picture.
Well,
I think I went through. I mentioned I was gonna try to take a picture.
That's
I
right.
don't know if I took a picture or not.
you didn't intend to be done at that point, correct?
I didn't intend to be done.
Right, because you wanted to take a picture of what was going on.
I was going to take a picture to show them that troopers were outside in front of the
Right,
house.
you wanted
Correct.
to continue to monitor what was going on, did you not?
I was not monitoring what was going on. I just happened to drive by at that moment.
May we be seen at sidebar?
Okay.
You can get the merchandise on the YouTube. It's all connected on the YouTube. All the little breaks here. I might have missed some. I want to go back here.
Have you shown those both to Mr. Lally?
That's the next page after this one. I'm showing you 2 pages.
Okay.
Again, read it to yourself and look up at me when you're done.
Do you have a phone with a flashlight on you?
I don't have a phone on me. If you have a flashlight, I'll be able to see it.
Well, I'm going to check out here. I'm going to keep playing the video. I want to thank everyone for supporting us.
Needs- Madam Court Reporter, Mr. Clerk.
This made my Friday, made my week right here watching this guy pull out his little flashlight. Oh, anyone got a flashlight? I can't see, but I can see out the window.
All right, much better.
You can, where can you buy a Young Jerks trucker hat? You can buy one on our YouTube channel. If you look on the YouTube channel, it will have a link to our merch store. If you don't find it, just hit us up on Facebook or Twitter where we can respond back and I can send you a link too.
I got it now.
The flashlight. I got it now.
Grab that from you.
Thanks.
Having reviewed that, do you acknowledge that you texted the group that you were trying to get a picture of what you were seeing?
Yes, I said I was going to try to take a photo.
You would agree with me that you were watching what was going on, correct, on February 1st?
No, I just happened to be driving through the neighborhood at that moment.
So you happen to be driving through, and then you texted the group to tell them what you saw, correct?
Yes,
And then you didn't just keep driving up the road and leave the area, did you?
I think I did.
Well,
I don't, unless you tell me I went back, I think I did. I said I was going to try to take a picture.
right, well, that's my point.
Yeah.
You weren't, just having seen the troopers back out there at that house, in your mind, you still weren't done, correct?
I was going to take a picture to show them, oh, the troopers are outside your house.
Right, so in answer to my question, you weren't done with that scene, correct?
I think I was, because I don't know if I took a picture.
Well,
I think I went through. I mentioned I was going to try to take a picture.
That's
I
right.
don't know if I took a picture or not.
you didn't intend to be done at that point, correct?
I didn't intend to be done.
Right, because you wanted to take a picture of what was going on.
I was going to take a picture to show them that troopers were outside in front
Right,
of the
you
house.
wanted
Correct.
to continue to monitor what was going on, did you not?
I was not monitoring what was going on. I just happened to drive by at that moment.
May we be seen at sidebar?
Okay.
Is there any objection from council if Mr. McKay brings his own phone back in? Should he need a flashlight again? So why don't you do that? Okay. You're all set. Thank you. All right, thank you.
All rise for the court, please.